Thank you for joining us tonight for Peirce College's Midweek 2023. Our panelists include Mr. Tony Peirce. He earned his bachelor's in business administration from Peirce in 2020 and is a seasoned entrepreneur with experience spanning multiple sectors. These sectors include music, entertainment, fashion, footwear, food and beverage, as well as real estate and construction. Tony is currently involved in business consulting and development, both nationally and internationally. And Mr. Peirce also invests and is involved in industries such as electric automotive technologies, wireless mobile systems, and alternative energy generation. Tony is the co-founder of Vested, Inc., which is a nonprofit 501c3 and is focused on economic empowerment through entrepreneurship and professional development education for diverse individuals and communities. Welcome, Tony. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Our next panelist is Janet Taylor. Utilizing her natural organizational ability, Janet founded Totally Organized LLC in 1994. With a track record of government contracting and serving notable clients such as Les Brown and Diana Williams, her firm was recognized for 3 consecutive years as a top minority business by the Philadelphia Business Journal. In more recent years, Janet has expanded her expertise as a corporate trainer, leading webinars for Fortune 500 companies. Her energy in the field has earned her the title of Clutter-Free Queen when she appeared on The Rachel Ray Show in April 2018 and has also led to appearances on HGTV's Mission Organization. As a sought-after speaker, Janet has shared her knowledge with audiences at events such as IKEA and the Philadelphia Home Show, and her hope has even caught the attention of Apartment Therapy 2020 for its impressive organization. And Janet, I might bring you here to my house because I could use you. Janet is also the host and producer of the popular podcast, Got Clutter, Get Organized, which has topped the charts as the #1 indie home and garden podcast and the #1 home and garden podcast overall. Janet is a 1986 alum of Peirce College and lends her expertise to the advisory board for the business division at Peirce College. Janet, welcome to tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Great, thank you. Our next panelist is Dr. Joanna Vasquez. Dr. Jo is the Director of Organizational Development at Children's Crisis Treatment Center, CCTC. Dr. Jo supports the strategic vision of the organization and drives programs to support workforce development, employee engagement, and leadership development, as well as training, which prepares staff to meet the challenges of serving the emotional and behavioral needs of at-risk children. Dr. Jo is also a human resources consultant that provides training and guidance on issues ranging from DEI, change management, and talent management. She sits on the Philadelphia SHRM board as their Executive Vice President of Strategic Initiatives and is the executive producer and host of the podcast HR Fresh Take. Dr. Jo is also an adjunct professor at Temple University's College of Education and Human Development and serves as a member of the Peirce College Business Division Advisory Board. Welcome, Dr. Jo.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great, thank you. And our final presenter tonight is Tykia Chezin. Kia Chezin is the CEO of TC Unlimited, LLC, located in Chestnut Hill, Pennsylvania. She graduated from Peirce College in 2009 with a Bachelor of Science degree in business with a concentration in management. While attending Peirce, Tykia worked full-time as a financial counselor for Children's Surgical Associates, where she handled billing and payments for children's surgeries. She started her small business in 2005, selling clothing and accessories at trade shows and vending events at colleges, universities, and hospitals during Black History Month programs. With a passion for fashion, customer service, and having a lifelong dream of owning a boutique, she took the leap of faith to open TC Unlimited Boutique in the Chestnut Hill section of Philadelphia in 2016. As Kia worked in her boutique, she applied the strategic planning, operations management, and human resource management knowledge and skills that she gained during her Peirce College education. After operating her store for 4 years, she was invited to attend the Community College of Philadelphia's Power Up program that she successfully completed in April 2020. In this program, she attended classes on how to make your business, tax strategies, updating your business plan, and how to strategize and prepare for new product lines and businesses. She was also assigned a business coach and a mentor to provide her with additional coaching and guidance during and after the program. This training proved to be critical in her success during the challenging times of the pandemic. During the pandemic, she decided to leverage her business contacts and superior customers by customer following by moving her boutique to another high traffic area in Chestnut Hill. This relocation served as this relocation to a new space, and her fashion promotions and events on Facebook Live have positioned her as a fashion house for several notable females in Philadelphia, including governmental officials, TV personalities, and senior leaderships in Philadelphia sororities. Welcome to Kia. It's great to have you with us.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here. So let's get started. Let me unshare my screen so that we can see all of you. And I'm going to have you start I'm going to ask a question to all four of you. And as we do this, I want you to think about your answers and how you want to share this. The first question is, can you share your personal journey as a minority entrepreneur and highlight the key milestones and challenges that you faced on your path to success? Who would like to go first? Tony, I see you're unmuted. How would you like to go?
That sounds perfect. So, again, thank you for having me. I'm Tony Pitts. And as far as my entrepreneurial career, I started off as a teenager in the music business. My mom used to call it that noise you listen to. And I learned how to promote parties and concerts. And eventually, after a year or two, we had earned enough money to actually club in Philadelphia. I was a 19-year-old nightclub owner. From that, I parlayed it and learned how to promote records. Ended up working for different record labels, promoting locally in the Philadelphia and tri-state area. Then eventually started my own independent record label and had a few record spins, and then went broke. Then started back up. I got into custom footwear. We had a store in the Gallery, South Street, Miami. Then the market crashed and broke again. And then I had a Liberty Tax business. So I'm like a serial entrepreneur. So I've done a little bit of everything. I was in a coffee business. We had a coffee restaurant in South Philadelphia, a franchise. We were in Love Park, Chestnut Street, so on and so forth. Sold it, moved on, was in health and wellness. Recently, over the last 7 years, I got into real estate, and it's pretty much just changed my life significantly. So I'm a real estate investor, a contractor, as well as a realtor. And I also invest and consult. I'm in a Black-owned electric tech company who's jockeying to be the first Black-owned electric car company. I work with a Black-owned spice company that's based out of Philadelphia, as well as a Black-owned mobile company that's out of Florida for smartphones and tablets. And I'm also the executive producer of a reality TV show that's in development. And my baby is Vested, which is our nonprofit, and we're just all about economic empowerment through entrepreneurship and business development. As far as challenges, most of the challenges that I face have been more internal than external, meaning that some might say I have a problem with staying focused on one industry. And but one of the challenges was really understanding myself and who I am and what I am and what I do best and how I add value to the world. And I think that's important because to me, it's the first step and a cornerstone upon which you can build on with teams and resources. And it keeps you from chasing money and going from this hype to the next hype, whether it's crypto or whatever else might be coming up. And I think it's significant, and I think it's a good starting place for any entrepreneur to kind of first know thyself first, know what you want to do, know your hopes and your dreams. And it took me a while to find that, but I found it now. Thank you very much.
That's excellent. And that is such a key point. Know yourself first. Because if you don't know yourself, how are you going to know where you go from there? And sometimes it does take us a while to figure all that out, doesn't it? And I guess we still have to say, do I still know it yet? I don't know. It's all about evolution, and it's all about rolling with the punches, and that for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, that kind of kicks in sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for sharing, Tony. Who would like to go
Thank you.
next? Kia, you look like you're looking for your unmute. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Kia Chesson. I am the owner of TC Unlimited Boutique. Fashion, women accessories, anything that will get me together with a bunch of women has always been a passion of mine. I love being around women. I love to empower women, to uplift women. So I found a way to do it through clothing, through accessories. I opened up my boutique 2016, but the boutique journey wasn't quite the fit for me yet. So I started off online, dealing with contracts because my background is actually in healthcare. Thank you to Peirce. I was going to school while getting my education. I was still working my business. So I started off small. So I do encourage that. Have a diversify your income, have other ways of having an income when you're starting your business, because like you said, it's ups and downs, pandemics, things are coming at you so fast. And, just having a passion, just wanting to do it is not enough these days. So I started off with a kiosk. I was in other people boutiques and business selling my product. I did trade shows. I have contract from 2000, probably 9 into 2000 and late 17 with 3 major hospitals, Einstein, behavioral health, other ways of making income. Before, I was just thinking of it as a hobby, and this is extra income. But it actually started out being very good and significant that I took it a little more serious and created LLC. I'm actually in the process of trademarking my information right now. So it's a lot of things that I wanted to do that I knew that I had to keep going and look at other options to further my business, to further my growth, to pivot myself, to scale myself. Right now, currently, I am in my second location. And this location has allowed me to pivot and to grow. When pandemic hit, I was in a 1,000 square foot place, and now we're in like a 2-story, which is over 4,000 square footage, which allowed me to have an area to do online business, to do live sales through social media, which allowed me to have extra employees, extra hands to present the product in a more efficient, professional way, more space. So I did grow. I think through pandemic, it really taught me a lot of things, as well as the Power Up program. I do recommend any small business, or if you're thinking about getting into business, that is a great program to get into. It's like the first step to going to Goldman Sachs. It does help you strategize and help you kind of grow and see where you're going with your business if you actually are considering getting into business. So continue to grow, continue to educate yourself. Peirce, of course, was definitely a start for me. But you have to continue to grow, and you have to continue to stay and doing your research and stick to it, push through it. It's not easy. I will say those are a lot of milestones for a short period of time. With love and support from family and friends, it's been a little bit easier for me, but there has been some times that it wasn't. Being a small entrepreneur and being Black, number one, there's no loans, there's no grants, there's no programs that are like running after you. You literally have to do a lot of research. You have to have all your records in order. You have to know exactly what you're doing about your business. You can't just say, hey, I made this and I'm doing that. You actually have to put in some work. And if you don't want to do the work, this is not the skill for you. This is not the career for you. So it does require a lot of, downtime of researching, just going over your numbers, hiring accounting. These are very vital things to stay in business as an entrepreneur. So I encourage you to make sure you take on some of these things before you jump full-fledged into a business and not knowing the ins and out about it. So I'm very grateful that we're still in existence. This past couple months has been rough, but if I didn't keep up on my numbers for the last 3 years, things has been different for the last 3 years dramatically. You had COVID, you have coming out of COVID, you had before COVID. So it's kind of hard to gauge, exactly how well your business is going to grow or where you need to be in your business, because we're in some unusual times. But I think most importantly, because I have got through pandemic, I'm very grateful that the business is still sustainable. We still have staff, we're still around, and we're going to continue to move and push forward so that we can I have a goal in mind. I won't share it, but I have a goal in mind for this year for ourselves. And we at the last quarter, so I'm getting close to it. I'm not going to say it yet because I'm still working on it, but I'm just thankful that I still can, stay in business and be able to speak on it and help other business grow. I have a fashion show coming up this November the 18th at the Loft, shameless plug. And this is another way that we keep our business going and lifting up women and supporting our product and our designers and the people that we work with. We continue to have events, we continue to promote, we continue to market on all social media platforms and in our community. I'm part of the business association. I did 2 terms. So just being involved in your community, stay true to what you're doing and do your research. So that's pretty much what I can say. If you have any questions, I will answer them the best that I can. Thank you for the opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you, Kia. I think, obviously, just based on the first 2 responses, entrepreneurship is not for the lazy. It's not for the faint at heart. You have to be hungry and you've got to be a go-getter. So thank you for sharing all that. Janet or Dr. Joe, who wants to unmute quickest? After this, I'll start by calling on each of you.
I do have just a follow-up question, if you don't mind, really quick, because what Kia was saying, I just wanted to ask in regards to marketing, how much of a role did that play in your success?
Marketing for the very beginning, it was a small portion of it because I didn't think significantly of it being a small business. But right now, after the pandemic and during the pandemic, your marketing skills play a very large part. Your content, your customers, how do you retain them? How do you stay in touch with them is very important because, as you know, TV, email, they bombard you with emails and texts, and now all kinds of links to sign up and get this discount is very crucial because it's not just me doing it, it's 20 other people who sell the same product that's doing it. So if you're not doing it at all, you pretty much are not even in no one's thoughts. You want to be fresh in someone's thoughts. So marketing is a must. It's free on social media for the most part, unless you're boosting your ads, but it's definitely important. Be uncomfortable with situations with marketing. I market lifestyle and I market my product, but I'm always marketing. I'm always branding. I'm always marketing. It is crucial.
Thank you.
Definitely, most definitely.
Can I ask a quick question? Because I have to go into the paralegal class. Tony, I know that you have you're part of the student affairs. Do we have like an entrepreneurship club? Because this is my first time ever joining. I'm a social entrepreneur myself. I live in New York, but I'm from Philadelphia, so I do understand the diversity of business, the challenges as really being in I will call it in New York, in the grind. So is there like a social entrepreneurship club? Because I'm heavily involved, like you guys. I've done deals, I've dealt with entertainment clients and so forth like that. And being part of the school community, is there a social entrepreneurship club?
I guess that might be better for you, Kathy, right?
Yeah, I can answer that. We do not have an entrepreneurship club. We have student associations for enrolled students, but even that, we do not have an entrepreneurship club. However, there's the Small Business Association. I would reach out to them. I would reach out to your Chamber of Commerce as well. That would be a good way to do that. But we will still continue to talk about how our 4 panelists engage with everyone and things on that line. But let's go ahead and have Janet, if you would do your answer to the question of how can you share your personal journey as a minority entrepreneur and highlight any key milestones and challenges that you may have faced.
It's interesting, and hopefully you can hear me because I'm slowly losing my voice. But so my journey was, I was laid off from a job I really loved, and I decided that I wanted to really have control over my finances. So I started doing research because so many people told me how organized I was. And I found out that there was a national chapter. I got connected with the local chapter of organizers. So that's how I got started. And I think one of the reasons my start was a lot easier than a lot of people was because before the layoff, I was in the midst of, I had everything packed and I was moving out. Then I got the slip that I was going to get laid off. And then I had to have a conversation with my mother and just let her just let her know that this is what happened. I can't go anywhere, so please don't throw me out. And of course, she did not throw me out. And she was a really good support because she actually transformed an extra bedroom into my very first office, which was really nice for that. So that was like my start. I've had a lot of milestones, which I can talk about a little later. And I think one of my biggest milestones was actually being on a government contract. And at one time, I was on 3 government contracts at one time, which came at a really great time because I was also in the midst of one of the contracts as part of a government shutoff, which made it really good because I still had those other 2 contracts to kind of keep me going. And I think part of the challenge for me, it was more like personal because there have been times when I've done things, I know I have not done them in excellence. I mean, I always talk to, whenever I have an opportunity to speak to people about just being a better presenter and a better speaker and how I spoke in front of 200 people and I could just hear how unhappy they were with my presentation. But that did not stop me. Actually, it just made me really work harder to become a better speaker to the point now where I feel like I need to duplicate myself because I'm in such demand, which I truly, truly love. But my path for success has just been, it started out with, I wasn't really even thinking about starting a business, to wanting to be in control of my finances, to having opportunities where I realized for me with the government contracting, it was better for me to partner with people who got the government contracts, not for me to actually go after them, because you can still receive a nice compensation from just being on the team. And then also just being up as a minority on all the certifications that you qualify for. Because what I also learned in that journey is that a lot of times these huge companies that always receive the contracts need a minority, and sometimes they need the certification. So if you're the minority and you've got the certification, then you could really position yourself to actually get the contract. So that's really kind of my personal journey, but also my journey as a minority business owner as well.
Great, excellent feedback, excellent advice there too. Thank you, Janet. And Dr. Joe, what do you have to share for this?
I'm always glad to go last because I hear I'm just so inspired by my fellow panelists. And I think I could reiterate, especially what Kia said about always having income. It's really, for me, I'm a first generation college graduate. So not having income was not an option for me. I always had to have a job. And so in my journey had to kind of go parallel to continuous employment. And I started thinking about, well, I may have some HR expertise that maybe some people don't. And, how do I hone that skill? First challenge came really early. I'm a Hispanic woman with a very, very Spanish last name. So already that was the barrier. And it's like, who are you to tell us? And HR is not really diverse, even though we kind of work with DEI, that is not a very diverse field, at least just yet. So my identity became a challenge. And so I had to figure out, okay, what can I do to kind of say, you know what, I don't want my identity to be a challenge. I probably could be a niche. And especially working with in populations where, primarily minority workers, Hispanic workers, being able to speak, I don't speak fluent Spanish, but enough. And to kind of bring myself and put myself in a place where, yeah, I could be a subject matter expert on certain things. So that was the first thing, was changing what was considered in a deficit into an asset. The next thing was, just like my fellow panelists said, I was one of many people who wanted to go into consulting. And again, it's not about for the faint-hearted, it's a lot of hustle. And I had to do a lot of things for free. And bartering became my lifeline because I already had income, so I didn't have to worry about someone paying me an invoice. It was that, look at what I can do for you, and hopefully in turn, if you need me, I can be there for you, and this is how much I charge. The second challenge was, how much do I charge for myself? Because again, trying to change that deficit to an asset, I don't want people to get scared and be like, oh my God, you're gonna charge me this much? Who are you? So with the bartering, I also partner with other consulting firms and other people who were they were doing consulting, and I help them out so that hopefully in turn they will help me out when I start and I get, the calls.
Yeah.
For COVID, it wasn't a challenge. COVID gave me more work than I can deal with because everybody was trying to figure out remote work, not, coming back to work. What do we do about vaccines? What are the policies? People didn't want to come back to work. Religious exceptions, disability exceptions, accommodations, and everything.
Yeah.
And so when it was time, I got calls. It's like, hey, and because I was working from home, I had more time to kind of say, okay, I have a little bit more time to work on these projects as well as my work. And the next step I did was to become Dr. Joe, which was really, really get into HR in every sense of the word. So not only tactical and practical, but theory, and be able to kind of speak on all things HR and know in my network, if I couldn't answer it, to help others, to find others to help answer that question. And because that network went so large, that marketing, you market from the moment you wake up
Yes.
to the time you go to sleep. Whether you market yourself, you do your posts and all that, is because you want to kind of continue that connection. You give shout outs to people who helped you out, and then they repost, and it starts that network and that web. And because I couldn't handle some of the work, I gave it to other people. And I said, hey, this is the person that you need, and vice versa. So now everybody's, hands washing the other. But I've never had to, and again, props to my fellow panelists, I never had to worry about, like, I had to take this leap. The leap was my poor husband, who's like being neglected. Because it's my regular job and everything else. And my Saturdays and Sundays are not my own. And also I'm a teacher at Temple, which also came because of my association with my network. So oddly enough, when COVID hit, and it's still coming and it's still going now with the issues regarding return to work. But for me, you don't necessarily have to like own a storefront or just, or do kind of like what people think the traditional entrepreneur. You could be an entrepreneur yourself. And, and to my fellow panelists, is that, you could start online. You don't have to have a brick and mortar. You could be a consultant in the firm, then you become an independent consultant. One consulting firm is actually sponsoring me to get my my LLC as well. So it's a great way to, have that network. Sometimes you got to do stuff for free, and barter, and hopefully that relationship will come back to you. So I guess, and that's the way my journey has, and those were my biggest challenges.
Yeah, I think you're right. When people think of entrepreneurs, they do think of Kia, who has a storefront. They think of Tony, who has all of these different, entities and different things that you're doing. There's such thing as an organizational entrepreneur. Whether you have an entrepreneurial spirit and you're working somewhere, you can still be very entrepreneurial and be very early adopter. You could be the one that pushes that envelope and helps that organization to get into another area. But all of you have tireless energy about you. And so I think that that's a wonderful thing that's certainly is coming through in how you all answered that first question. For the next question, the theme of this year's MedWeek is empowerment and growth. And so what are some of the strategies or resources that have been instrumental in empowering minority entrepreneurs to thrive in today's business landscape? And I think, Kia, I'm going to throw this to you first. So what are the strategies or resources that have been instrumental in empowering minority entrepreneurs to thrive in today's business landscape?
That's a very good question. There's several things I will say. I'm going to put myself out there to say, I think research, education, and your network. Knowing your network, knowing your education and the skills or the career path that you're going in or that you're involved in. I'm associated with many other boutique owners. I'm associated with Chestnut Hill Business Association, which we have a retail committee. So just knowing what you have in front of you and working them. Like I said, it's not easy, but if I wasn't connected or I didn't do the things that I did to level up my business strategies, to get the education, do the research, and be connected to some people that can help me grow in the areas that I needed to grow. I didn't know everything from the beginning. You know, I had to figure it out by scenarios or experiences or networks or information that I learned along the way. So that's very key, I think, for any entrepreneur, just making sure that these things are covered when you're discussing whatever route you want to go, whether it's behind scenes, whether it's a boutique owner, or if you're doing something online. You do need to know, knowing the base, what kind of website to use, knowing what kind of portals to use to process payments, knowing how you should do contracts. There's a lot of companies, a lot of online places that you can go that can help you or direct you, or forums to feature this information that can be very helpful for you, but not just jumping into anything and not knowing what it's about. So definitely do some research. Some of the things I just mentioned can be very helpful for beginners or for people who are even thinking about it. Knowing what kind of method of payments. I accept Square. I use Wix as an online tool, and they have a lot of things already based inside the website to help me do marketing. So I do marketing from my website, I do marketing from my social media, and I also have a contact list from over the years of just capturing people's emails and information that I still use. If some people don't use technology, I text them. I say, hey, how you doing? This is the new arrivals this week. For some clients, I have to do that. Or I personally put certain things together for them before they even mention me or even come to my facility. So just knowing which way to reach your customers and, getting the technology, the knowledge is a win-win. It's definitely going to be beneficial to you, and staying on top of what's going on, what's trending. I did a Barbie TikTok. I didn't think I was doing TikTok for my business, but TikTok sells and TikTok does work and it keeps me familiar with different levels of people that I'm marketing to. I'm not just marketing to women of a certain age. I'm marketing to whoever's interested in Barbie right now,
Right.
So just tips like that are very helpful. Just stay on top of it, be very diligent about what it is that you want to do. And also my other key is, do your research about other businesses that's very similar to your business. You can learn from the masses, learn from people who's already doing it. You may have to tweak it. You may learn some things that you may want to do specifically for your business, but definitely research. I've been to Paris this year. I've been to Europe this year. And the main thing I was doing, I was looking at fashion, research, buildings, all kinds of aesthetics of how I can decorate my window, what I would present, just because it was different, it was new, and it's something that the USA wasn't doing. So that's beyond fashion, but it was a win-win. It was a trip of a lifetime for me, and it was also educational for my business.
That's wonderful. And you have to go where people are. You can't expect them to just come to you. Most definitely. That's right. Janet, how would you like to go next for this question?
I knew you were going to call on me.
There's a perfect transition right to you right here. She teed you up perfectly.
But you know what? I wanted to piggyback off of her because, she's right. You have to know the other people who are doing the same thing. And it doesn't like we have to be. I meet quarterly with another organizer. I have so many friends, female friends, who are podcasters, who are organizers. I mean, yet we service a different clientele, but we kind of feed off of each other with the resources. And I think that's important. And also sometimes just going to the conferences, whether it's the National Association of Professional Organizers or the podcasters, and getting all that information. But also these cell phones. And I think sometimes we overlook all of these contacts that we have in these cell phones. Like she said, you text people. Sometimes you got to call people. Sometimes you have to email people. I'm on TikTok too. And that's something I fought for a long time until my 26-year-old godson said, Aunt Janet, you need to be on TikTok. And I'm thinking, why? And he's like, but you have a message. And I was shocked. Looking at the numbers, my TikTok numbers are better than any other social media numbers by far. And I'm shocked. So those are some of the resources as well. But also, not being afraid to ask questions, not being afraid to go to the small business associations, not being afraid if you see someone who you would like to achieve some of the goals they have, seeing if they could be a mentor, you know, going to business. I have a business coach. I meet a mentor every 2 weeks. I meet another mentor monthly just to kind of glean because I know I'm at a place where I don't know, even though I've been doing it a long time, those are some of the resources. I don't know it all. So those are some resources as well, but definitely get to know the people, see what they're doing. What are they doing on Instagram? What are they doing, just in general? I'm learning so much just how other podcasters are just producing their shows, but also the follow-up they do. I'm thinking, okay, I have to level up, and it makes you really level up too.
Excellent, excellent points. Excellent points. Tony, how about you next?
Great, great, great. So from a resource perspective, just to piggyback, for me, being a pre-internet baby, the internet itself is a huge resource. You have access to literally unlimited information that you can't get. I grew up, you go to the library, encyclopedias, or the bookstore. Now literally everything is right here on your phone. So for me, the internet itself, I mean, you have access to network. Like, look what we're doing right now from the comfort of our homes, meeting people, building relationships, learning. Even from a workforce perspective, people are collaborating for one company in 7 different countries, all at the exact same time. So the internet, technology, you talked about the smartphone technology. Every year there's a new way to use your phone. There's a new app, robotics. And what's the craze right now? AI, AI, AI. So the internet, technology didn't exist some years ago. Now take full advantage of it. The other thing, from a strategy perspective, speaking specifically to minority businesses, I think one advantage is to really take advantage of having authentic boots on the ground. And what I mean by that is because we're in the culture, we have a different perspective, like to be able to see what our problems are so that we can come up with a solution, to know what the challenges are, to be able to better certain services or products. I think that's critical. Just take a look around at what is needed in your community and really be that problem solver for that. Not only that, outside of developing new maybe products or services or bettering them, um, the minority culture, the Black culture, has a huge impact on popular culture. So you can take something that is predominantly minority and it can explode or cross your company over into a bigger stratosphere. For an example, when we were doing the custom footwear, we were just taking, the kids, the teenagers who did art, and we just put it onto footwear and sneakers. And obviously it resonated with the hip hop community, which in turn, we ended up with big corporate contracts. I did a lot of work with Timberland, the boot company directly. Um, it pushed us into Hollywood. I did work with Don Cheadle, Robert Redford, Stephen Colbert, all because of being connected gradually to the community. So that's also another advantage. Really, if you understand what's going on in your space, and a lot of opportunities can come from that because a lot of corporate companies, they really want to be able to tap into the people that you have a good pulse on, so to speak. So from a strategy perspective, really taking advantage of your connection to the community and the culture could be a good way to combine those resources to have some success. Thank you.
Excellent. I love the authentic boots on the ground. I think that's such a key. Knowing your community and being out there and asking questions. What do they want? Not just assuming that we know. Excellent. Thank you, Tony. Dr. Joe.
So two things that helped in my strategy. One was, instead of getting a mentor, I got a sponsor. So it's a whole different vibe. It's like a mentor will give you advice on problems you bring up to them, and they may guide you someplace. A sponsor brings you with them. And I was lucky that when I was starting my HR career, I ended up having a sponsor who got me into the board of Philadelphia Sherm. And she basically said, like, also introduced me to people, help with some costs as well. So especially for women, it's like, we say mentors a lot, but it should be a sponsor, someone who's going to look behind them and bring you forward. And so it's, in which I'm doing with a couple of other people who are just starting out, and it's the greatest feeling I have, because someone helped me, I want to help them. And I'm actually going to go old school. The best reactions I ever got was a handwritten thank you card. And I get them really fancy. It's just like, this is my calling card. And I will put my business card in there, but it's handwritten. It shows my appreciation. It shows that I took time. We can't write anymore. I had to be really, really deliberate to make sure that I could write and it's legible. And that they get it in the mail, and it cuts through the noise. And a marketing pro in my HR network basically said, you'd be surprised of just getting something in the mail, whether it's a card, a letter, or something small, will cut through the noise, and they will look at it and they will actually remember you. And I will get thank you emails back and say, oh, thank you for the card and everything. And, and we'll keep in touch, and I keep doing it. So especially if they do a presentation. So LinkedIn is a great resource because they want to promote their business, their talk. And when I find out that they're doing something, it's like, oh, hey, congratulations, how did it go? So now I have a network of about 200. So I don't do it all the time, but I do send a holiday card. And just to say, like, hopefully, blessings or basically kind of like they're different kinds to, I know them enough not to send them the wrong card. Not just generic, but kind of like a little bit more personal. So taking the time to get, to be personal, to kind of meet them where they are, cuts through that noise, and it actually solidifies a lot of the relationships. And I get more consistent work from those that I've sent the cards to. And so versus like just emailing, hey, what's going on? I may see them, I may never see them again. But the people I've gotten the cards, I will have maybe 2 or 3 accounts from them.
I think that's a great tip. I know that email overload is a real thing. How many people have thousands of emails in their email inbox? I know I do. I'm guilty of that. And it's a very personal touch. And that's a nice thing. I always like when people interview and they actually send a card that says thank you for the interview as well, too. So that's wonderful. Thank you for that. I think we're going to change it up a little bit. Dr. Glenn, do you have any comments in the chat that you'd like to share that people have shared out?
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Kathy. Francis, she mentioned relationship building is so important. I believe that Francis is now in the beginning stages of creating her consulting firm. So she is just recognizing the fact that relationship building is valuable. Dr. Curry is saying that, yes, learning from your challenges can really prepare you and move you forward. Turning challenges or barriers into strengths is a point that Ellen made. Let me see some other points that are here. think another point that was made is that we don't know what we don't know, and knowing we can ask the questions and ask for help is so vital when you think about starting your own business. Tawana said that yes, everyone's on TikTok, so you got to get on TikTok. Let's see, what are some other points that are made? I think that was it. Let's see. I think that's it. Just most people are just saying that they're enjoying the discussion and some great points were made, and I said they're looking forward to the panel sharing some more of their experiences.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. So if anyone has questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. We'll have Dr. Glenn share them again as we get closer toward the end. Continue with your comments too. We'd love to hear that. We'd like to hear the affirmation. It's one thing for us to be able to talk, but then to be able to hear it is even better, because we may not be able to see the chat as we're going through. So thank you everyone for being active. So let's go on to the next question. The next question is going to be about access to capital. How do you make money? How do you fund all of these great ideas? And I think, Tony, we're going to start with you. And the question is, access to funding is a common challenge for many entrepreneurs, particularly minority-owned businesses. What advice can you offer to help minority entrepreneurs secure the necessary capital for their ventures?
Okay, great. So for me, my mentor, a very successful Black-owned entrepreneur in Philadelphia, taught me early on as a kid. He taught me to start where you are. So he always said, just start with what you have. That's first. So don't try to necessarily shoot for the stars, and because when you start a business, it's a baby. It may not need a whole ton of funding to start. We always think money, 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 but before anyone's going to give you any money, or before you should even accept any money, you should at least have your product, your service, just certain basics in position first. And the next step is get some traction, and whatever you make, put it right back into the business again. So while you are continually to grow, even if it's baby steps, no matter how small, you keep reinvesting. And while you're doing that, simultaneously, you research. You research what are my funding options, who's lending in what industry, because some industries are restricted, and what is the criteria. So while you're building, you're working on getting that criteria. How old does your LLC need to be? What does the personal guarantor's credit score needs to be? If yours isn't there, well, you got some landing to try to work on that. What type of revenue do you need to be at in order to get certain lines of credit? What kind of experience do you need to have? If you don't have it, then you bring in team members who may have that, so you borrow their credibility. And so you do your research first before you just launch out there saying, gimme, gimme, gimme. After that, so now you kind of have a point in the future to begin to get your company to, so you'll be able to get funding. Now, funding is private or conventional. It's really that simple. So if you don't qualify for something that's standard, a bank loan or a grant or something like that, there are hacks that you can do. One of those hacks is you can get business lines of credit. You can get a credit card in your business name. The vetting process on the lender side isn't very intrusive or intensive. And if you meet certain basic criteria, you can get 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 that you can convert into cash. But that's another lesson. But at least you'll have access to that money. Also, partnerships are extremely important. That's probably the number one reason I've had any success in my life whatsoever, is because being able to build strategic partnerships in areas that you may be weak where someone else is strong, or you provide something, whether it's sweat equity, where someone who has capital may not have the time resource, but you have the time resources, they have the financial resource. You build partnerships. So it's really all about thinking outside of the box, not thinking or feeling that you're limited to the lottery, grandma died, give me some money, who I could borrow from, or anything like that. I always say, and I do it today. My mentor is wealthy. He could just dump a ton of money into any project. He does not. He's extremely cheap, and he'll do penny at a time, and he'll put that penny back into his 2 pennies until it gets where he needs it to be. And if he needs to bring in partners and build upon that, that's what he does. So that's my advice, because it's what I do today. Thank you.
That's excellent, excellent advice. And I can visualize that penny by penny, because typically people who have it, keep it. They keep it. Definitely keep it. Janet, how would you like to go next?
Well, actually, I want to answer the question from a different perspective. I feel that minority businesses need to be more organized, because that's one of the, I have a lot of connections with a lot of the organizations that would give businesses funding. And one of the things that they said, the reasons why was because they didn't have all their paperwork, they didn't have it in order. Some businesses, and I can understand, they're not embracing technology. So therefore, a lot of stuff was just somewhere where, of course, I believe, yes, you can still have original copies, but it needs to be where if a banker wants something, you should be able to send it to them just like that. So that's, because Tony gave a lot of great information, and I want to piggyback off of him by saying, please have all your stuff organized, have it organized on a drive, so that when you do present and you do need funding, whether you go to a bank or maybe somebody like Tony does who's wealthy, you have everything there that they need, and they can look at it, and there's no like, oh, I don't know where my LLC or this or that, or I don't have my tax documents. So that's my perspective, is please get all of your stuff work, because that is one of the things that holds minority businesses back, is that we don't have our stuff in order.
And when you're asking for help and it takes you too long to get documents to somebody, it tends to look as if you're not dedicated. You had a great talk, but you didn't follow through with it. So that's actually incredibly important.
And it is, Kathy, because I needed funding at a time where my calendar went blank, and I was able to call my bank. I was able to send them everything they needed. And because of the circumstances and the situation, I got money fast. People were, they couldn't believe how fast, but it was because everything they asked, I just gave it to them. And then they sent me stuff. Okay, I signed it, gave it back. So that is key. No matter where you get your, what source, get organized.
And as a new entrepreneur, that's an important piece too, because you don't have a staff of people. So it's not as if you have someone taking care of documents and all of your records and all of that. It's all on you mostly. And so to be able to go a couple keystrokes away, and there it is. That's excellent feedback. Good. Thank you. Dr. Joe, what advice do you have?
So kind of piggybacking off of what was said, there shouldn't be a barrier to someone to reach you or to pay you. And being organized is definitely a big thing. And it also lends to your credibility as being organized and saying, and knowing fully well that what's expected of you. Now, I know that there was a lot of talk about research, but sometimes it's going to get overwhelming to do some research because they don't know where to go. So joining, I think we mentioned here that joining an association, joining whether it's the business associations, affiliated organizations. Like when joining Philly Sherm, I didn't know where I can get capital. And they were like, oh no, you need to go here to research that. And this is when I actually joined some of the other consultants to help them in their business. So that in turn, when I had all this work, not only was I helping with them, but they gave me advice and capital and partnerships. So and it's very important to establish yourself as a business, like put in the paperwork, file, because if you do it as a person, you get into some legal issues. So it's really like incorporate yourself, do the LLC, and then, and then you contract out. And that's how it's very important to do that, because that's how that gives you legal protections. Because in terms of, for me, and people who go into consulting, they do it just on their own and not realize that there's some things that you got to do to protect yourself. So yeah, don't have those barriers to get, just like with marketing, you don't want have people have a hard time people reaching you or getting in contact with you. But the same thing is like not have a barrier for people to actually give you money that they have to give you. And it's been a really big advice for me, and it's been just having everything together so that when they asked for it, I had it. And so there was definitely good advice.
Yeah, never get behind on your billing of clients. They want to pay. They're willing to pay for the services because you've provided a good service. But yeah, don't ever fall behind on billing of clients. Excellent, thank you. Kia, how about what advice do you have?
Well, I wanted to piggyback, but I also want to state that when I first started, it was a small business. I used my own funding. And using my own funding, I didn't get tied up into being, having to pay this person, that person on top of my own personal expenses. So I took it small and I used my own funding. But as my business grew and as I got other contracts and was into other projects with the business, I started leveraging what money I did make. I was leveraging to do other things to sustain the business. So being in business, I knew I couldn't get a small business loan, but I did have good credit. So if you keep your credit up, I was able to use a personal loan actually to open up my first facility. And I was able to pay that personal loan off at a faster pace so that I wouldn't get hit with a whole lot of interest. So have a bank relationship, have good credit will get you access to some funding. And if you continue to do this early on in your business and grow with your bank history or with your relationships, I in terms bought duplex, which own property, which own equity, which was other ways that I can actually pull money from out of my business to actually further my business. So I will say that minority businesses, when they were giving out money, one of the big things they did say is that people did not have their stuff organized. They didn't have proper documentation. And I know in the very beginning that is difficult, but do put that on your goal list to do. Make sure you do get your LLC or see if the LLC is beneficial to you. Make sure you have a bank account, a business bank account, a business relationship, a business representative. And also, if you're not really well with your documentation and keeping things organized, hire someone to do so. I do have an accountant. I do have a lawyer. I have certain people in place to handle things that I do not have time to handle, but I am very knowledgeable about the area, but it's not my expertise. So I handle it I let the people who are experts in it handle it for me. And I just stay on top of that. And if you are really good with that, just recently, not knowing how good my business credit was because I started so young and I didn't know to use it in other ways. I just recently got a loan for a substantial amount of money with barely no documentations because of my history and because of what kind of banking relationship I had over the years, what kind of expenses that I had put in or took out. They saw my history. And so basically I was in New York for a business trip. By the time I left New York, it was approved and the doc signature paperwork was on its way. So I think that starting a relationship with a bank, start small, also look into your own funding, your own credit, definitely can help you get to the point where you needed to go. Because when your business start growing and you don't have the funding, a lot of people, they just stop, they end their business. But if you have access to other capital, that you can lean on, especially different relationships with different banks, business credit lines, I have several at this time. So it can happen. It's other ways to do it. If you need help, talk to someone who experienced this, who knows a little bit about it, and see what way it can work for you. But it has definitely helped me. I'm on probably my third piece of property on top of being a business owner, entrepreneur. I'm also invested in property because I know the significance of property, how it can help me. If my business was to be really slow or this quarter was really bad, I have another way to leverage money for my business. So right. I have to think of things that can help my business and continue to help my business. It may not necessarily be all sales for this quarter, but what am I going to do? I have staff, I have other expenses. another backup plan. Or I could leverage some money from out of my property or out of my business to get a business credit line. So it's very important that you have a business relationship, but also start off with your own money first.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. Borrowing from family is not the thing to do by any means. Excellent, excellent, interesting comments. Thank you for all of that. Dr. Glenn, do we have anything? It looks like the chat has been quite busy lately.
It sure has. So Willie was just recognizing a point that Tony made, that he loves the point that Tony said that being a part of the community and having a firsthand look at identifying issues or potential issues and the solution you can offer. He really did enjoy that comment and thought that that was a fantastic idea. Also, we have Mark Cunningham. Mark Cunningham started a software training business 2 years ago. He has a vision of where he wants to take it, but he does not know anyone to talk to, any advice in terms of who he can have a conversation with. Also, he has a question about how can he qualify for a business credit card with no revenue yet. He said he has his LLC and the business checking account has been established. So he needs some guidance as to where should he start?
I would jump in to say that he needs to have a relationship with the bank that he has the business credit line with, so that they can actually take a closer look of his accounts and also talk to him further about what type of monies that he may need, so he can kind of set up a goal or a strategy of what actually will work. Because you don't want to just borrow to borrow, right? You want to make sure you can pay it back as well. So if he has not received any money yet, or don't think that he's going to receive any money right away, he has to have a plan of how he's going to pay it back. So he definitely needs to sit down and talk to someone immediately to see which way he needs to go. It's kind of hard to say what to do without knowing all the details of his business, and he needs to talk to someone in regards to that, probably at the bank first.
Awesome. Okay.
I'm sorry. You go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Just to chime in, if your credit score is pretty decent, Chase Inc. gives credit to give business credit. If your credit is good, they won't look at any of your business history. Chase Inc. is one. Capital One Spark Card is another. And American Express Business is another. There's probably one more that I'm missing. But and then there's some banks that they just want your LLC to be 2 years old. That's it. They're not, and your credit is decent. So you have Truist Bank, you have Univest Bank. So there's you have so there's a few of them. There's a few banks that will take the risk on your business if your personal credit is at least intact and at least your LLC is established, even if you don't have activity. They will. They have a high probability of you getting a loan through that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of those, Tony.
I just wanted to add to Tony. Yeah, I just that's how I started with American Express Business, because I didn't have any income just yet. But my credit was like phenomenal. So they were just like, well, we're gonna, your personal credit history is good. You've had American Express for 10 years. Here's the business. And so I was able to start with that.
Awesome.
I think Geraldine also, she recommended NAV.com is another organization that she's recommending as well. Another comment that Dr. Curry mentioned, she said for her family business, the partners had to use their credit for some transactions to be approved. So they used their own personal credit. Another point that Victoria made is she said you should start with small community banks. She said that might be a really good starting point. Also, Victoria is asking, does someone on the call have a reference for a business attorney? She's asking that question.
It's a pretty broad question, because what is it a tax attorney that you need? Is it a someone in a niche? Is it like in different, it basically for what specific need that you want, because business attorneys can run the gamut. And if we're looking at a particular need, then it'll be easier to kind of reference. It's like, do you need help with taxes? Do you need help with revenue? Do you need help with other places? So it's like, what's the need?
Gotcha.
I would say it's a tax attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, I think we have another question before we go to our Q&A. I think this is Miriam Mohammed. What advice could you give to connect with business districts or counselors to build relationships? She offers a website designs for B2B and illustrate books for publishing companies. And so far, many of her clients are referrals based on her business advisors and other publishing companies that she works for. But she just wants to figure out what connections, who could she connect with in terms of business districts or counselors to build relationships. And Miriam, you can jump in if your question, if I've not shared your question correctly.
Hello. You did a good job. Most of my customers are referrals, and a lot of the times the publishing company or the business district might have just met me through email marketing, or I might have been at an event, or someone else referred them to me. Is one of the three, but I would like to get, I guess, a bigger catalog of them so that there's not like a gap in time, hopefully, of when I'm between like a project or two. It's not always enough of them for me to really kind of keep the ball rolling all year round. That makes sense.
If I can chime in, I would if there are industry networking events that pertain to exactly what you do, I would be at every one of them. If they're yearly or quarterly or whatever it is that folk that do what you do, some sort of convention. I think that's another way to expand your reach, is to get involved in trade shows or trade shows of the industry people that you're trying to reach, whether it's book shows or magazines or writers or so whatever those industry outlets are, then I think you should attach yourself to those things, whether buy an ad or set up a table or a booth or network, or be involved in those industries, and that will put you closer to your customer.
Okay. Thank you, Tony.
And if I could chime in as well, I think that don't just specifically stay in that area. You have to get yourself out there and market to people that may read the type of books that you have. So attend women events, Black-owned events, whatever that may be close to your product or service. Get yourself out there. You're the mouth of your business, and you can market that through TikTok, through social media as well, but also network with other businesses. Like Janice said, she deal with podcasts, deal with podcasters, deal with anybody that could be a reference to you or a network to you. You can create that yourself by just getting yourself involved in other networks so that you're not just limited to those particular ones. Okay. So I would say network, connect yourself with other networks.
Thank you.
That's one point that I could share from the chat before we move to questions. So Francis also has a question. Dr. Curry said that possibly to offer to do workshops for kids to help get your name out there in a positive way in the community might be something you might want to consider, Miriam. And then also Geraldine said another financial vehicle to go to or institution would be credit unions. Credit unions are another financial institution to seek. Francis?
Thank you, Dr. Glenn. I was going to add with the networking, I think that just jumping out there and telling everyone that you come across or in contact with what it is that you do. Is it Kia? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Perfect, thank you. And similar to what she said, it's almost like looking at your business as an onion and then going through all the different layers. And also Tony, I think, touched a little bit on this, and seeing where are all of the connects, right? That could potentially be direct or indirectly connected to what it is, to your business and what it is that you are seeking. But overall, again, telling everyone what it is that you do. And in terms of social media, also maybe if you're not already doing it, LinkedIn, and being the subject matter expert in that industry and what it is that you do, so that folks then start, there's another network that you're just not limited to your immediate community or area that you can be exposed to, becoming an expert in that industry and what it is that you do.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Frances. Okay, I'm going to take us to our final question. This time has flown by, and I love the engagement with the participants as well as the panelists. So I will let you all jump in as you wish to answer this question for the panel. And the question is, as we look ahead, what trends do you foresee in the world of minority entrepreneurship? So what's in the future as you look in that crystal ball? What are you seeing? And I'll let you guys jump in whichever order you want to go.
I guess I'll go. Guys first. So a trend that I see here, and I think that it's going to continue, is the I guess I'll call it the personification of brands, right? So what I mean by that is you're either the person behind that particular brand, and I'll go get this, this recipe because I like this cook, or either the brand itself has a personality. You humanize the brand. So I think that is going to be a trend going into the future. People are going to position themselves to be experts in a certain space, and then be able to roll out products that are congruent with whatever industry that they're in. Or they're going to create a brand, but this brand is going to have a personality, whether it's witty or funny, or whether it's stern and serious. And the consumer, I think the idea behind it is that the consumer will personalize the brand, be a friend of the brand, love the brand, pick up for the brand, fight for the brand, like it's a person. So I think it's going to be the personification of the brand, again, whether it's you as the person or whether it's the brand that becomes the entity or the person itself. So I think that's a trend.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that. Let's go next. The next trend for entrepreneurship.
The next trend.
Okay, Kia.
Okay, I would say the trend that I'm seeing now that I think will grow even more is more minority companies and businesses working together more. I think that it is a strong need for minorities to recognize that we're doing better together than apart. A lot of times we, like I said earlier, work with your fellow boutique owner. It doesn't hurt the brand. It doesn't hurt your clientele, but it also can help us where we have more power as far as how we select items, how we purchase items. So knowing that we're better together than apart. So even in my area of work, I know probably a good 5 friends that have boutiques on some line, and we're friends. We're good. We look to each other for support, bounce ideas off. And also, even in my community, I'm in Chestnut Hill area, which is really a historic area. It wasn't a lot of minority businesses here before I came over 6-something years ago. And within the last year or two, the growing businesses has been minorities there, which is like unheard of, to the point we had established a minority catalog for the Business Association Chestnut Hill, because it was very obvious that 90% of the businesses that came aboard or Black-owned minority businesses. So I think working together more is definitely a trend. You see a lot of coaching, a lot of advice that's going on amongst women businesses and minority businesses. That is a real big thing right now. I'm actually friends with a young lady who has a product called Ite. You may have heard of her. Her name is Keisha. Her business is global and it's been this way for 20 something plus years. And me and her are personally friends and we're working together on certain projects. And she's now offering mentorship. I've been to 2 of them where she's offering her services for free. She's at a point where she can actually give back and have the time to give back. So you'll see more of that going on because I think more entrepreneurs are being developed or thinking of branding or thinking of businesses, but they don't really have no one to kind of help them. Yes, we on this forum today, but think about it. Do you know somebody who's actually taking the time to help another business sponsor them or mentor them? There's not a lot of that going on. So I think that's going to be the trend because I'm seeing it already. And I think it's going to be very successful for our entrepreneurs and our businesses to grow with one another and work with each other for obvious reasons, of course, that can be beneficial to our businesses and our community. So I think that's what's going to be trending. I think that's going to be something that you're going to see more of in the next couple of years.
Great. Thank you. Dr. Joe?
So before I put in my 2 cents about that, I just wanted to kind of piggyback what Francis said about like putting your name out there for everyone to know. Like 30-second, we're taught that the 30-second elevator speech. It's like when you have the opportunity, it's just like, okay, hi, here I am, this is what I do, and everything. It's like if you have an opportunity, here's my information. And I can't tell you how many times like just putting yourself out there that things come to you because you did that elevator speech and the 30 seconds, and it's just like, oh, okay, and then I didn't need you now, but now I need you like further down, months from now, maybe a year from now. Again, it's one of the ways I got my job at Temple was someone knew that I just got my doctorate, I'm in this area, in this space, and I just put it out there, and all of a sudden I got a call and they said, hey, someone told me to talk to you. So it's put your name out there, say it for everyone. It might feel like it's obnoxious. It's not. This is your business. This is about the hustle. This is about your dream. So you're gonna fight for your dream. The trend I see is not only with working together, definitely, because again, I'm one of many consultants, and yet I'm not hurting anybody else's business because I'm a subject matter expert in a particular niche. But I do see authenticity. They're looking for authentic products, authentic representation, authenticity from the owner, that you're real. And they're going to not only, and you see it, people will pay more when they know, kind of like Tony said, they know the person, they know the product, there's a human aspect. I would fight for products that I love. And it's just like, because I feel I have that connection, but it's an authentic connection. And so I think, and that you're going to do good in the world, because you'll see that with terms of products. It's like, not only are you authentic, not only do I have a personal connection, but you're going to do something for the world. This is how Gen Z is buying stuff now. So what are you going to do? Not only what you're going to do for me, but what you're going to do for the planet, what we're going to do for the world.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Great. Thank you. And bring us home, Janet. Bring us home.
The trends I see that we need to stop thinking we're too small to work with a major company, because there are a lot of major companies now that are doing business with people who probably thought they were too small to even be looked at. I mean, I see a lot of my colleagues, they're doing business with the Container Store. I see a lot of my fellow podcasters getting some major sponsors. I know Dr. Joe has sponsors for her podcast. So just don't limit yourself in thinking, oh my goodness, I'm too small, I can't approach them. Because a lot of times out of the blue, you'll look in your email and there'll be a company that says, hey, I want to sponsor you. I want to sponsor this, or I want to collaborate with you on this. So just don't think, I think that's the trend. Is they're really looking like Dr. Joe said, authentic people but brands are really looking for somebody that's really going to represent them. So
Yeah.
those are
Have
my
confidence.
final words.
Have confidence, right?
Have confidence.
Excellent. Well, before we say our goodbyes, I'm going to take some pictures of all of us. So first of all, since I have the 4 of you pinned up there, I'm going to have you smile, and then I'm going to unpin you. And then while I'm doing that, if everybody wants to put their cameras on, we're going to take a couple pictures of however many laptops I see. Don't roll your eyes. I saw you roll your eyes, Janet. You got caught rolling your eyes. Okay, so if I can get the panelists to smile. I took a picture while you were talking. I thought you don't want me to share that one. All right, so here's this one. And let me unpin you all so that we can get everybody. Let's see. Okay. This was a great, phenomenal conversation. Thank you all so much for contributing, and even to our audience for excellent comments and excellent questions. Tony, where are you? Here you are.
Could I share
Okay.
real quickly? There is just 2 comments in the chat that I'd like to share before we close.
Sure.
Dr. Curry said that it was helpful this evening to hear the difference between mentor and sponsor. And she said, thank you all for sharing. Well done. Also, Victoria's Kitchen has 5 entrepreneurs that they have mentored and that they help fund and finance their businesses. Victoria, would you like to share and share with the group what you've done with other entrepreneurs?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Hey, Kia. I know a couple people on here. But Victoria's Kitchen, we had, of course, we're a restaurant and catering business. And we've had people that's worked here. Excuse my grandson in the back. He's autistic. But anyway, I'm letting him roam.
He's welcome.
Yeah. We've had people that has worked for me for over 5 years. They stayed with me. They helped me to grow. So I wanted to do something to help them to grow. They inspired to have their own business. So my husband and myself and my son, we decided to help them along the way and mentor them, show them the ropes of owning a restaurant and a catering business. And when we help them to find some of them to find their locations, help them to finance it, take them to different vendors who and get them accounts, let them get on our accounts so they could start their own accounts, like vending accounts, food and equipment. So we did that for 5 people. And I'm very proud of that. And I tell that story all the time because I think that that's important. And I think, like Kia said, collaboration is key. And now I can go back. I don't have a dining room. Post-COVID, I took all the chairs out of my dining space. So it was all takeout. So now what I do is if I have a tasting or something I need to do, I can go to one of them to use their dining space. So we help each other all the time. They send jobs to me, I send jobs to them. It's just a beautiful relationship. I love it. And to Kia's point and Miss Taylor's point and Tony's point and Dr. Joe, everybody's point. I loved it. This was a fantastic workshop.
Terrific. Thank you. We do have a question to see about connecting with everyone. After we take our pictures, I'll put the slide back up that has the QR code, that has their podcast, their contact information, and all of that. So we've got, it looks like I've got 2 pages of participants. So get ready to smile. We're going to smile, and you never know whose social media this will show up on. So if you want to take off your camera, now's the time to do it too. Or turn on your camera, I should say. Okay, ready? Okay, there's one, and let me flip the page on my Zoom. And here is the second page. And then finally, let me share my screen and I will drop this over again. There you go. Now you can see, you can all see the QR code, correct? Just a thumbs up. Linda, I can see you. Do you see the QR code? Okay, excellent. So it is with a very full heart that I say thank you, Janet, Kia, Tony, and Dr. Joe, as well to Dr. Tolliver Roberts, Dr. Glenn, Dr. Torres, and Dr. Gail DiGiacomo. These events don't happen just because a city is throwing a 39th anniversary of Midweek. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes on to produce these. There's a lot of meetings that happen between the panelists and us just to make sure everything is ready, that they are ready and on their game, and you all brought your A game. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of your time, and let me just do one last thing so you can see it, because it is, oops, I don't know where I am. I don't know if you can see me. Where am I? It is time to ring that bell. Let's go Phillies. Let's go do it and bring that series back. If we get to Broad Street, you may or may not see me. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But thank you, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed it. It was wonderful.